I still remember the last time I saw my sister, lying cold on the autopsy table. Her face pale and lips parted as if she had one last thing to say. They said it was an accident, that she slipped, that it just happened. But I knew my sister. She didn't just slip. And she never let anything just happen. From that moment, I knew I had to become her. Same long wavy hair, same rosewood perfume, same soft yet sharp voice. I practiced her walk, her smile, the way she tilted her head when she didn't believe a word you were saying. I studied her until I could look in the mirror and see her staring back. And then I walked into her life, her house, her world. I greeted her husband with her voice, slept in her bed, ate with the people who had once sat across from her, pretending I belonged. But I didn't expect him. Ethan, my sister's husband. He was nothing like I remembered. Harder, colder, as if grief had carved something out of him and replaced it with shadows. He didn't look at me like I was her. Not at first, but as the days passed, his eyes softened, and mine betrayed me. I didn't come here to fall in love. I came here to uncover the truth. Because something about her death didn't sit right. There were bruises that didn't match the story. Locked drawers, whispers in the hallway, and a final voicemail she left me, cut off mid-sentence. Someone didn't want her secrets to be found. Now I'm walking a line between pretending and becoming. Pretending to be the perfect wife. And becoming the next woman to die in this house. The first night in my bedroom, I barely slept. The sheets smelled like lavender. Like her. The closet was still full of her clothes. Her perfume bottle stood untouched on the vanity. Her handwriting danced across sticky notes on the fridge. Don't forget your vitamins. Remember the charity gala. Her ghost was everywhere. And so was he. Ethan. He barely spoke to me the first 2 days. Just watched me, as if trying to decide if I was grieving or guilty. I kept my movements careful. Measured, like her. At breakfast, I stirred my coffee twice. Not 3 times. She hated things in odd numbers. At dinner, I ordered her favorite wine. Not mine. She drank red. I preferred white. But this wasn't about preference. It was about convincing the world, including her husband, that she never left. The maid, Rosa, kept glancing at me strangely, like she could smell the difference. One afternoon, as she handed me fresh sheets, she paused and asked, "Did you change your shampoo, Mom?" My heart skipped. I smiled, soft and vague, like my sister would. "No." "Why?" She blinked, then shook her head. "No reason." But it was a reason. Everything was a reason now. I began sorting through her things late at night. A box in the back of the closet contained a USB drive. Password protected. Another drawer held a notebook, half-burnt pages. A list of names I didn't recognize. A few were crossed out. One had a red question mark next to it, Mila Henders. That name meant nothing to me, until I saw Ethan's reaction the next morning when I asked, casually, "Did Mila ever visit us?" He froze, spoon halfway to his mouth. "What? You know, Mila, your college friend. I think I found a photo of you too." He stared at me for a beat too long, then smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I haven't heard that name in years," he said. "She moved overseas." And just like that, the subject changed. But I couldn't stop thinking about his reaction. What did she know, and why was my sister writing her name just days before she died? That night, I opened my sister's laptop. Her browser history had been wiped clean. Emails deleted. Recycle bin empty. Too clean. Except, one draft remained in her inbox. Untitled. A message never sent. "Ethan is hiding something. If anything happens to me, start with the lake house." My blood ran cold. The lake house. He hadn't mentioned it, not once. Neither had anyone else. But I remembered, faintly, a place they used to escape to before they got married. She once told me it was where she first fell in love with him. Now, it might be where she died. I waited until Ethan left for the office the next morning. He kissed me on the cheek before heading out, just a brush of lips. Polite and practiced. The kind of kiss you give someone you're supposed to love, but don't trust anymore. It sent a chill down my spine. As soon as his car disappeared from the driveway, I changed into jeans, grabbed the car keys, and drove. The lake house was 2 hours away, tucked deep in the woods like a forgotten memory. The road was narrow, winding, lined with tall trees that leaned in like they were keeping secrets. When I pulled up, the house stood silent and still, white shutters, moss on the stone path, and a porch swing creaking faintly in the breeze. A layer of dust coated the windows, and the front door groaned when I pushed it open. The air smelled of cedar and something older, something like neglect. It was like walking into her past. Photos still hung on the walls. My sister and Ethan, smiling at barbecues, hiking, kissing in sunlit corners. She looked happy, radiant, and yet, underneath it all, something felt off. Her eyes, the tension in her fingers when she held his hand. I studied every image like a crime scene, searching for cracks. Upstairs, the bedroom was untouched, the bed made, the curtains drawn, and then I found the safe. It was hidden behind a false panel in the closet. Small, black, electronic. I didn't know the code. But she was smart, predictable in her own chaotic way. I tried her birthday. No. His. No. Then I tried mine. It clicked open. Inside was a stack of letters, none of them addressed. All in her handwriting. They were diary entries, really, written on crisp stationery, dated by week, not day. Some were smeared with water damage. Or tears. Week 1. He's changed. He doesn't touch me anymore. Doesn't ask about my day. I think he's hiding something from work. Or someone. Week 3. I found lipstick on his collar. Not mine. I asked. He lied. Said it was old, but I know that color. It's Mila's. Week 5. I think I'm being followed. I keep hearing noises at night when he's not home. I told him. He said I'm imagining things. Week 6. If I disappear, it won't be an accident. I sat on the closet floor. Frozen. This wasn't paranoia. It was a woman screaming in silence. She had known something was coming. And no one listened. I tucked the letters into my bag and left the house just as the sun began to dip behind the trees. Every shadow felt like it had teeth. Every gust of wind like a whisper. On the drive back, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Ethan. Where are you? 3 words. But they tightened around my throat like a noose. I didn't reply. Instead, I got home, walked inside, and pretended nothing had changed. We had dinner in silence. His eyes lingered on me a moment longer than usual. Then, softly, he said, "You smell different." My heart slammed against my ribs. I just tried a new soap. I lied. He nodded, but something in his gaze darkened. Like he'd seen a crack in the mirror. Like he suspected I wasn't really her. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay still beside him, feeling the weight of his presence behind me. His breathing was steady, too steady, like someone pretending to be asleep. Or maybe I was the one pretending, not just to be her, but to be okay. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that message again. If I disappear, it won't be an accident. And now Ethan was watching me closer, the way his eyes lingered too long, the way he always seemed to know exactly when I left a room, or what drawer I'd opened. He was testing me, and I was running out of time. The next morning, I slipped out before sunrise and met with someone I never thought I'd call again, Detective Mara Lynn. She was the lead investigator on my sister's case, the one who ruled it an accident after just 2 weeks. I thought I told you. It wasn't an accident, I interrupted, placing the letters on her desk. She glanced at the handwriting, then back at me, her brow furrowed. How did you get these? I found them in a safe at the lake house. She didn't ask whose name was on the deed. She already knew. She flipped through a few pages and sighed. Look, even if this is real, and I'm not saying it isn't, this doesn't prove he killed her. These are feelings, suspicions. I leaned forward, then look harder. Mila Henders, the lipstick, the erased emails, the bruises in the autopsy report. You ruled her death a drowning, but there was no water in her lungs. She went still. You read the report. I lived it, I whispered. She sat back, watching me differently now, less like a grieving sister, more like something else, someone dangerous, someone getting close to something she shouldn't. She nodded once. Let me see what I can dig up. Quietly, I left with my heart pounding and my hands shaking. Back at the house, Ethan was in the garden, watering the orchids. He never cared about flowers before, but now he tended to them like they were the only thing keeping him grounded. Or maybe they were just an excuse to be near the ground, in case he ever had to bury something. He looked up as I approached. You were gone early. I needed air, I said. He smiled, but it was hollow. Funny, you hated mornings. My blood turned cold. He was testing me again. I changed, I replied, steady as I could. Grief does that. He didn't answer, just looked at me like he was trying to decide if I was a ghost or an intruder. Later that night, I found something in her journal that made me stop breathing altogether. A photo, torn at the edges. My sister, eyes wide, standing in a dark hallway. Her face looked afraid. A hand was gripping her wrist. The handwriting beneath it just read, "He said if I ever left, no one would find me." And behind the photo, a key. Small, old, rusted, with a tag that read, "Basement." But we didn't have a basement. At least, I thought we didn't. The key burned in my pocket the rest of the night. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Basement. We lived in a modern house, sleek, open, glass and marble, no creaky old doors, no dusty cellars. At least, that's what I believed, but now I wasn't sure if anything I knew was real anymore. After midnight, once Ethan had gone to bed, I waited, counted his breaths, listened to the rhythm of sleep. Then I slipped out of bed and padded silently down the stairs. I searched every corner of the house, inside closets, behind cabinets, under rugs, until I found it. A trapdoor, hidden beneath the laundry room tiles. It wasn't obvious, but the keyhole was there, tucked behind a false panel. I held my breath and slid the key in. Click. The door groaned as it opened. A staircase spiraled down into pitch black. I found a flashlight in the pantry drawer and descended, one trembling step at a time. The air grew colder the deeper I went. Damp, metallic. My fingers grazed the walls, stone, not drywall. This place had been here long before the renovation. At the bottom, there was a narrow hallway, lit only by my shaking beam of light. And then, the door. Steel, bolted, with a keypad. My heart raced. I didn't have the code. But I tried anyway. Her birthday, his, mine, wrong. Then I thought back to the letters. Week 6. I typed 0606. Beep. Green light. It unlocked. The room inside wasn't what I expected. Not torture, not chains, not blood. It was worse. It was hers. A replica of her bedroom. Same sheets, same nightstand, same worn-out teddy bear she'd had since she was 5. The books were all there. Her perfume, even her favorite robe, hanging on the back of the door. But everything was off. Frozen in time, like she had just left. Or never escaped. And in the corner, mounted on the wall, was a camera. A recording camera, blinking red. I stepped closer, my hands trembling. On the desk was a laptop. Locked, but beside it, a hard drive, labeled in messy handwriting. For her, if I never make it out. I grabbed it and ran. I didn't stop to shut the door. Didn't care if he heard the creak. I bolted back upstairs, locked myself in the guest bathroom, and plugged it into my phone with a converter. It took a moment to load. Then, the screen lit up. Videos, one after another. She had been recording herself. Daily logs, confessions, fear. In the first few, she was calm. By the 5th, she was crying. By the 10th, she was begging. He locked me down there. Said I was sick. Said I needed to be fixed. If you're watching this, I'm probably gone. I pressed my hand to my mouth. He said he loved me. That no one else could have me. That he'd rather bury me than let me go. I shut the video off. Everything spun. He hadn't just watched her die. He'd trapped her, broken her, and when she tried to fight back, he silenced her. But then the door creaked. I froze. "Can't sleep?" Ethan's voice called from the hallway. I turned slowly, swallowing my panic. He stood there in the dark, barefoot, calm, watching me. I could have sworn I heard footsteps downstairs. He said, taking a step closer. I quickly unplugged the drive and shoved it in my robe pocket. "I was getting water," I said, keeping my voice steady. He looked at me for a long time, smiling faintly, but his eyes were sharp, hollow. "You've changed," he murmured. And that's when I knew. He knew. I didn't sleep for the next 2 nights. I kept the hard drive hidden in a place I was sure he'd never look, inside the hollowed-out base of my sister's old jewelry box. The same one she used to store love notes and broken trinkets. It felt poetic somehow, and cruel. Ethan hadn't said another word about that night. But his behavior shifted. He was suddenly attentive, too attentive. Breakfast made when I came downstairs. Fresh roses in a vase on the table, white ones. Her favorite. And when I said I needed space, he offered to take me out of the city. A weekend away, he suggested. Just the 2 of us. A getaway? Or a trap? I smiled, nodded. That sounds nice. But inside, my mind was racing. I needed to move fast. That afternoon, I returned to Detective Lynn's office and handed over the hard drive. She watched the first 2 clips in silence, her expression unreadable, but by the third, her knuckles had gone white. "This isn't just abuse," she said finally. "This is captivity." I nodded, my voice tight. He kept her there, in that basement. "Where's the room now?" "Hidden under the house. Trapdoor behind the laundry tiles." She stood. "We're getting a warrant now." I exhaled. Relief. Finally, something real, something official. But that night, Ethan came home early. He walked in just as I was about to send a message to Lynn, warning her not to delay. "Change of plans," he said, tossing his coat on the couch. "The weekend trip, we're leaving tonight." "Tonight?" My throat tightened. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "You said you needed a break." I haven't packed." "Don't worry, I already did it for you." He picked up a duffel bag by the door. Black, heavy. "I've booked a place by the cliffs. No cell service," he added, almost too casually. "Good for disconnecting. No cell service. No signal. No escape." I forced a smile, grabbed my purse, and followed him to the car. The drive was long, quiet. The roads got narrower, darker, more isolated. My hands clenched the seatbelt the entire time. And just when I thought we were completely alone, he spoke. "You've been different lately." My heart skipped. "In what way?" He stared ahead at the winding road. "You're quieter, more watchful, more like her, but also not." Silence. He glanced at me. "Tell me something," he asked, softly. "Do you really think you can pretend forever?" My mouth went dry. "What are you talking about?" He pulled the car over suddenly, turned off the engine. We sat in silence for a moment. The world outside so dark it felt like the edge of nothing. Then he leaned in close, his breath warm against my cheek. "I know you're not her." The words dropped like ice down my spine. I stayed frozen, barely breathing. "But I haven't decided yet," he whispered. "If that makes me want to kill you, or keep you." He pulled back and smiled. "Now, shall we?" He started the engine again, like nothing had happened. And I sat there, beside the man who murdered my sister, unsure if I'd live to see another morning. We arrived at the cliffside house just after midnight. It was cold, windy, the kind of place where sound disappears into the sea and no one can hear you scream. He unlocked the door like he'd done it 1,000 times. Inside, the place was oddly pristine, like a museum, too clean, no dust, no clutter, and no signs of life. I followed him in, my legs trembling beneath me. He lit the fireplace and poured us both a drink. "To new beginnings," he said, holding up his glass. I didn't drink mine. Instead, I pretended to sip, while my mind raced. No signal, no backup, no one knew I was here. Except maybe Detective Lynn, and even then. I hadn't told her where we were going. I never got the chance. Ethan watched me, The way you might watch a butterfly in a jar, beautiful. Delicate. Breakable. I always wondered what it'd be like. He said suddenly, if she had a sister. I swallowed hard. You knew, from the moment I saw your eyes. He murmured. They were wrong. Hers were colder. Yours, burn. He stepped closer. But you fooled everyone else. I backed away. Why didn't you say anything? He laughed softly. Because I wanted to see what your end would look like. Would you run? Would you beg? Or would you try to love me too? I clenched my fists. I'm not her. I know. His voice dropped to a whisper. And that's why it hurts. Then he lunged. I dodged just in time, shoving a chair between us. The glass shattered on the floor. I ran, barefoot, heart pounding, through the hallway, searching for an exit, a weapon, anything. He was right behind me. You should have stayed dead like she did. I found a bathroom and locked myself inside, fumbling through drawers. Nothing but towels and candles. I grabbed a glass jar and smashed it, gripping the broken edge. The door shook. I gave her everything. He shouted from the other side. But she wanted to leave me. Do you know what betrayal feels like? From someone you created. I pressed my back to the wall. Silent tears streamed down my face. My breath came in ragged gasps. I didn't kill her because I wanted to, he said, voice trembling now. I did it because she stopped being mine. Silence. Then, bang, the door cracked. He was going to break through. I clutched the glass shard tighter. But suddenly, a siren. In the distance. Growing louder. Closer. Ethan froze. I heard footsteps on the porch. A shout. Then the unmistakable sound of a gun being cocked. Police. Step away from the door. He didn't move. Then a voice. Firm. Sharp. Female. Detective Lynn. Drop the weapon. Ethan, I know everything. He let out a shaky breath. She's not who she says she is. I know, Lynn replied, and she's still not the one who belongs in a grave. Silence. Then, a thud. The sound of a body hitting the floor. I opened the door slowly. Ethan was on his knees, hands behind his head. Lynn stood behind him, gun steady. Our eyes met, and I collapsed. I woke up in a hospital bed 2 days later. Lynn sat beside me, holding a folder. We searched the house, found enough video evidence to bury him for life. I nodded, throat raw. The others? He had a pattern. She said quietly, your sister wasn't the first. But she'll be the last. I turned my face toward the window. Outside, the sun was rising, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could finally breathe. But there was one thing I hadn't told anyone. Not even Lynn. The last video on the drive. The one where my sister looked straight into the camera and whispered, if someone's watching this, please don't hate him. He wasn't always a monster. He used to love me. Until love became a cage. I still think about that. About how love, twisted the wrong way, can turn into something unspeakable. I came here to avenge my sister. But I left, with something even heavier. A truth I'll carry forever. And a heart I'll never fully trust again.